the day after Boxing Day. Good morning. Welcome to 55 minutes of current and relevant business conversations. You only get that on Business Morning. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Well, the holiday is on a pause for now because we know that in a couple of days you'll be back to the New Year holiday. We've been here. It's been fun. We've had less traffic on the road, so that's one of the benefits of working over the weekend, over the holidays. Maybe you should think of joining us. Now let's get into doing business this morning. We start with oil prices. It was a little changed on Wednesday as investors monitored Red Sea development with some major shippers resuming passage through the area despite continued attacks and broader Middle East tensions. Brent crude futures dipped 5 cents, about 0.1%, at $81.02 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude edged down 12 cents, that's about 0.2%, at $75.45 a barrel. The benchmark settled more than 2% higher in the previous session as further attacks on ships in the Red Sea prompted fears of shipping disruptions on top of hopes of U.S. interest rate cuts that could boost economic growth and fuel demand. Now, despite the attacks by Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi militia, major shipping firms such as Maersk and France's CMA CGM were resuming passage through the Red Sea following the development or the deployment of multinational task force to the region. The prospect of a prolonged Israeli military campaign in Gaza also remains a major driver of market sentiment. Then we come to Nigeria. The Central Bank of Nigeria is assuring deposit bank customers that it is fully equipped to carry out its statutory duty of upholding a stable financial system in the country. Consequently, it assures depositors of the safety of their funds in Nigerian financial institutions. According to a circular signed by the Acting Director of Corporate Communications, Mrs. Sidi Ali Hakama, Nigerian banks remain safe and sound, and the CBN encourages the public to continue their regular activities without being alarmed by reports that have not emanated from the CBN about the health status of Nigerian banks. Well, still connected to that, we do know that the central bank governor had hinted that there will be a recapitalization in the banking industry. We are yet to get the details of that. I guess it's the 2024 issues. But of course, we still have a lot of complaints about the shortage of the naira in circulation. And then the POS, the central bank had said it's a collaboration between the POS and the banks, and of course the POS have also reacted to that. Unfortunately, another Christmas with the threat of naira shortage, just like we had last year. And talking about Christmas, as Nigerians celebrate the holiday season, we put a lens into the heart of Christmas and the stories that this brings. In this report, our correspondent Will Ibong visits two families, each facing the economic challenges of the country in their own unique ways.
Lagos, a city of contrast, embraces the holiday season with anticipation.
How are you spending Christmas? I hope you are having...
We embark on a journey to explore how two families from different economic backgrounds are celebrating Christmas in this dynamic metropolis.
Good morning! Merry Christmas! Happy to see you!
Meet the Ubeys, a family of three celebrating Christmas in their modest home in the Oworu area of the state.
Thank you.
On arrival, there was no electricity supply in the neighborhood.
The purchasing power of an average Nigerian has gone down. That is us inclusive, you understand? For instance, my gen is down there, right? See us waiting here. I could not fix it for one reason or the other.
For them, the cost of living crisis is real, and they share how it differs from last year's.
To buy tomatoes, I couldn't buy because things are very high. The price, the basket of tomatoes we used to buy 1,800 is now 3,000 something. Now the gas that we use, 1 kg that we used to buy let me say, like last year, between 900, 700 is 1,100 now. There's nothing you can do. You must buy and cook.
Despite it all, the Obey family appears to have found joy in caring and sharing.
Oh, Merry Christmas! Please come and share with us. Hey. Daddy, Happy Christmas!
We have just visited the Ube family at Oworo, and we are going to visit the Ode family now at Medina Estate, their home, and we're going to see how they're celebrating Christmas this season. Join me. Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas! How are you?
Very fine, thank you.
Welcome to the Ode family.
Thank you. Lovely home.
Oh, thank you.
The Odes, a family of 3, celebrate the season with extended family, one of whom, incidentally, is one-time Miss Nigeria, Anna Ode. While they may be more economically endowed, the family, however, does not enjoy any form of immunity from the effect of the rise in cost of living.
Before, we used to hire chairs, put out canopy, family and friends, even passers-by, they come and they partake in all the goodies that we have to offer. But this year, it's not been like that.
This year, in particular, we try to do a lot of activities around Christmas, just mainly for my daughter, really. So Christmas tree, getting the decorations done and all of that. Just something to give her, some memory that, okay, it's a time for celebration and a time, for family and to have fun.
In addition, the Jackpot syndrome has also had its toll on the Christmas celebration.
I guess one thing I miss from previous years that I haven't been able to do this year has been going to poorer communities and, spreading the joy of Christmas, sharing food, clothing, and just trying to give people who are less privileged something to celebrate with. But we weren't able to do that this year, and the major reason for that is that the people whom we come together to do that with, a lot of them have left the country.
In the face of economic adversity, families in Lagos may have found solace in shared moments. These intimate snapshots create a tapestry of tradition that speaks to the city's resilience and enduring spirit of Christmas. Will Ibang for Channels Television News.
Well, the different faces of Christmas there put together by Will Ibong. Thank you for that, Will. And let's broaden that conversation now with Kelvin Emmanuel. He joins us from our Abuja studio, the Chief Executive Officer of Dairy Hills. Kelvin, good morning. And, well, compliments of the season. How did you spend your Christmas?
Good morning. Compliments of the season to you. Thank you so much for having me, and compliments of the season to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world. Well, it was a quiet Christmas. Spent it at home because, I needed rest and recreation after a very long year. So it was just low-key.
So if you wanted to do a comparison, 2023 Christmas and 2022, how would you weigh them? Last year, unfortunately, we have cash shortage again this year, but I might say it's not biting as hard as last year. And okay, by then we hadn't done the fuel subsidy removal and all of that. How would you compare both?
Well, if you look at the comparison, if you look at the fact that food inflation 1 year ago was somewhere around 22.68%, and today it's at 32.8%. Food inflation is highest in Kogi and is lowest in Bauchi. And you look at the fact that the exchange rate has moved significantly, considering that the government failed at unifying the exchange rate. And then you had the whole revelations from the Central Bank of Nigeria You had the deregulation of the price of PMS, and you've seen the black market premiums go haywire, and that has significantly affected inflation. Because one of the major causes of the inflation you see today is actually the fact that other than food prices going up, the supply chain of Nigeria is exposed to the shocks in the foreign exchange markets, and there are several reasons for that. So I think it's a very, very horrible situation because a lot of Nigerians are struggling to eat, are struggling to afford the most basic things that they need, like food, and food has, really eaten into the share of what they spend on food has really eaten into their income. There are millions of Nigerians who earn less than 50,000 naira a month. And there are millions of Nigerians who, before payday, they're already in debt. So it's a very, very horrible situation. I wouldn't give the government credit. I wouldn't say they've done well, especially when you consider that the current president, incumbent, inherited a very horrible situation. And in my assessment, I'll tell you, yeah, he deserves grace for, a little time within which you want to assess his performance. But so far, Nigerians are not doing very well.
So if you were asked to review the year, the economy in the year, we've seen things like inflation, you mentioned the FX. We know how much the Naira was. It was about 400 plus at the beginning of the year. Obviously now it's about 1,000 or more in reality. We've seen inflation go from about 21% to 28%. We've seen food inflation hit more than 32% from, I think, about 20 at the beginning of the year. And then you look at the realities, and also putting it at the back of your mind that when you look around the world, it's not just Nigeria, it's not just the African countries that have experienced this inflation and a hike in interest rates and all of that. Do you think we could have done things differently?
Anytime the government comes and says that, the problems in Nigeria are not unique to Nigeria alone, I beat them before those. And the reason is because, listen, between January 2022, when Russia invaded Ukraine and the whole global supply chain went haywire, crude oil prices went to highs that we've not seen since the 14th of July 2008. And, it was an opportunity for major oil-producing countries, major oil and gas producing countries to ramp up on FX revenue. Nigeria's food supply chain was shocked because the prices of wheat went up, the price of fertilizer went up, given that it imports fertilizer components like muriate of potash, mostly from Eastern Europe. It's really not an excuse because at the peak of oil and gas prices around the world, LNG price went up to about $156 per standard cubic feet. But Nigeria wasn't able to profit from it. Look, the NLNG annual report shows that there was force majeure because NLNG was unable to get feedstock, where then we're operating on 67% capacity utilization as at the middle of the year, and they lost $7 billion in revenue of the 22 million metric tons that they have capacity to produce. And how do you explain that Nigeria is struggling to provide gas feedstock to NLNG? And that capacity, that feedstock provision is dropped below 50%. Capacity utilization has dropped below 50%. So how do you explain the fact, for example, that your gross external reserves are $34 billion and your net external reserves is negative minus $2 billion? And the FX market is where it is today. There is like a 35% black market premium because you just do not have the reserves, to sort out the outstanding FX forwards in full, even if CBN has started doing that. And, the perception of investors and traders has, created a huge gap. It's difficult for banks to open LCs for companies to import, which affects inflation. Nigeria is just coming around to the point where it's just going to begin to do backward integration for its energy basket. about 9 different products that forms its energy basket: lower, middle, and higher distillates. So I cannot, like, exempt Nigeria and say, oh, because of the global supply shocks. Now, crude oil prices are going up again because of the situation in the Red Sea, in the Gulf of Aden, between the Houthi rebels in Yemen and, tanks that take products and ships that take products all the way from Southeast Asia and the Middle East to Africa, to West Africa, to Europe, to Western Europe, and to North America. So if you consider the fact that, for example, the 2024 Appropriation Act, the proposal the president made was hinged on, I think, $77 per barrel and $7.50 naira to $1 as exchange rate benchmark. And the crude oil prices are going up. And I expect crude oil prices, if this situation in the Gulf of Aden continues in the Red Sea, the crude oil price might go up back to $90 a barrel. Why is Nigeria not benefiting from it? Nigeria is not benefiting from it because NNPC has obligations. It has forwards on debt it owes to traders, on crude oil stock. It's struggling to provide Dangote refinery with enough crude oil feedstock it needs. The 4 million barrels that Dangote is going to get, he's gotten 2. He's going to get another 2 in the first 2 weeks of January. It's going to last him barely 11 days. And his board might have to resort to actually importing crude oil, heavy crude, which is cheaper, so that they don't have capacity utilization under 30%. How do you explain this situation to Nigerians? So it's not an excuse. The government does not have an excuse and say, oh, the global supply shocks and the political instability in some parts of the world, especially the Middle East and Eastern Europe, is the reason why inflation is high. Inflation in the UK is dropping. Inflation in the US is dropping. Why is the inflation situation in Nigeria not responding to monetary tightening? The government doesn't have an excuse.
Well, I hear you, Kelvin, and I'm sure a lot of Nigerians would want to agree with you. But so we're not too partial. I mean, we also had this year that oil production went up maybe, I think, about 40% in the first couple of months that the president, President Bola Tinubu, took over power. So, I mean, I guess we can also, we also had the Port Harcourt refinery also, even though we have been made to understand this is the first phase and it's the mechanical rehabilitation, so we still have a couple of months to wait before we can get products from that. But I guess we also have some things we could smile about in 2023.
Well, I'm not very optimistic about the Port Harcourt refinery. And I've always advocated for the government to sell the refinery because, in my opinion, and like I've always said, the government has no business doing business. The government is supposed to be a regulator. The work of the government is to provide an enabling environment for the private sector to be able to thrive. The Port Harcourt refinery, which was completed in 1989, 210,000 barrels by Shell and British Petroleum, has not been functional for decades and actually has taken about 11.3 trillion naira in turnaround maintenance, which is enough money to build a new commercial size refinery of about 300,000 barrels per day processing capacity. My advice for the president is to sell the refinery, because if you look at the balance sheet of NNPC, the refinery takes about nearly 100 billion naira a year in terms of staff welfare cost and compensation on their balance sheet, the 4 refineries, which are moribund. And I don't think it makes sense for you to, have dead assets going into 2024 where the Ministry of Finance has hinted that it's possible NNPC might going into book building for initial public offering for an IPO. So, for me, it's not a thing to celebrate. I think the president is, succumbing to the labor union, and that they should not, one of the agreements they signed, that they should not, dispose of the private refinery, the Port Harcourt refinery and all the other ones, and then get it back on track. I think they should sell off those refineries and, support BUA to build his own refineries in Akwa Ibom, as well as a deep seaport that they plan to build. Allow the private sector people to play in that sector, and then focus on ensuring that they can provide enough crude oil feedstock to the refineries in line with the the Domestic Crude Oil Supply Obligations in the Petroleum Industry Act of 2021. You know, in terms of, you know, going into 2024, I would say President Tinubu inherited a very, very, very bad situation. Nigerians don't understand the depth of how bad things were, you know, when he came into office in May of 2023. It's going to take a long time for him to attempt to turn the economy around because of the debt obligations. You can see in the Appropriation Act of 2024 that debt servicing has gone up to 8.1 trillion, which is about 94.8% of your capital expenditure. I heard the DG of Budget Office was talking about the debts that they intend to raise to finance the deficit in the budget, which is 48%. And he was saying that they actually have succeeded in, you know, renegotiating existing debt stock by about 1.7 trillion. And the question I have for him is how is he going to raise the other 8 trillion naira intends to raise? And considering that the sinking fund, you know, which is a fund set aside to pay debt outside of revenue, you know, is somewhere around 68 billion naira of about 8.1 trillion, you know, and considering that in 2025, that the government has to pay Eurobond creditors, which constitute about 37% of the external debt stock, around $1.1 billion in yield, in servicing costs, you know. So it's going to 2024. I don't see the silver lining yet. It's going to take a while for, you know, things to begin to turn around and for the GDP growth rate, for example, to begin to come up above 30%, above the population growth rate annually. All right. It's going to be a long ride. It's going to be a long ride for Nigerians. All right, Kevin, please just pause. Just do hold your thoughts. We do have a breaking news coming in.
This is Channels Television's breaking news.
It's a sad news this 27th day in the month of December as we announce that the Ondo State Governor, Mr. Rotimi Akeredolu, has died after a battle with leukemia. Mr. Akeredolu died in Lagos, where he's been receiving treatment for some time now. He had returned to Nigeria in September following a 3-month medical leave in Germany and only recently proceeded on another one, handing over to his deputy. We've been having this on the news. Mr. Ayedawa has been standing in as the acting governor, and now, unfortunately, the governor of Ondo State has passed on. All right, now we'll get back to the conversation we're having with Kelvin. Kelvin, unfortunately, we had to take that break to break out that story. But going on now, you were talking of 2024, and we've had a lot of projections. Talking about, for instance, our inflation. We've seen inflation tapering in the US and the UK. Well, fortunately, it's not happening in Nigeria. But we've seen economists say that by the first quarter, towards the end of the first quarter, we should expect Nigeria's inflation to begin to taper. But, I mean, the question is, are we doing the right things that will lead to a tapering of inflation? Because you talked about the supply chain in Nigeria. We still have the issue of security, insecurity in the food chain. I mean, we've seen what happened in Plateau State, how more than 100 people were killed. When you check, these are rural areas where farming takes place. Now, if we don't have farmers going to the farms, we don't have farms that are secured, obviously this is going to affect the supply of food. And so I don't know how inflation is going to taper.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, I want to send my condolences to the family and the people of Ondo State on the passing of Chief Rotimi Akeredolu, and also to the people of Plateau State for the sad incident that happened in the wee hours of Christmas morning. My condolences to them. Now, you know, it's interesting you brought up this conversation, and the reason is because, you know, when I look at Nigeria, I think the conversations are usually around surface issues, and we don't like to tackle difficult problems. See, the real structural problems, solutions to these problems that we keep talking about every year and every cycle. For example, the issue of insecurity and how it affects the ability to produce food, and the fact that the president has included food in the National Security Council list as a national security concern, is the fact that, look, the CDS came out and said 50,000 soldiers are spread around Nigeria. The Nigerian Army's job is to protect Nigeria from external aggression, you know. It's not to maintain internal cohesion. That's the work of the Nigerian police force. Nigerian police force is underfunded and is understaffed, okay? It's grossly underfunded. And I've always said that, listen, if you want to tackle the issues that this country has, you have to focus on one word: decentralization. Nigerian police force decentralization. Now, I'm beginning to see that some people are really understanding the importance of having state policing, you know, of moving state policing from the exclusive legislative list to the concurrent legislative list. Because you can't have a situation where these things happen and the president orders the Nigerian army to move in. They are stretched across the country. They're in the Niger Delta fighting crude oil theft. They are in the northeast fighting Boko Haram bandits. They are in the northwest fighting bandits who have taken over mining territories and are causing issues. They are in the north central. You know, they are stretched. So it calls for the question of how do you provide checks and balances within the state, a state house of assembly, state judiciary, you know, to provide checks and balances, to be sure that when you move policing from the exclusive to the concurrent legislative list, the governors will not take advantage of that and become, you know, lords over their states unevenly. How do you change the structure to ensure that that security votes they get, which is a military era construct, and use it as a counterparty fund to a security trust fund for the state, you know, will be like a financial buffer for the state governors to provide financing required for state policing in their states. These are the conversations we need to have. These are the conversations we need to tackle the insecurity you have around Nigeria that is a precursor to ensuring that farmers can go back to their farm. Now, on the economic side, you see, there are several structural issues we have to tackle from the roots, because we always like to tackle issues from the surface and then they come up again. Nigeria cannot continue with one state that has functional seaport. You have to decentralize seaport operations. You know, Calabar seaport is not semi-functional because the channel draft is 6 meters and it needs 12 meters of channel draft. I need to dredge it, right? You have the Akwa Ibom Deep Seaport that is proposed, and it's at the stage where, you know, MSC bought off Bolori Logistics that won the concession to build the seaport, and have the concession for about 33 years. And, you know, MSC is evaluating if they want to continue with the concession or not. You know, nobody's talking about that seaport, you know. And then you have the Onne Deep Seaport that is designated as E&P, and that makes the port categorization not competitive with other seaports in Nigeria. And then you have, you know, Nigerian Inland Waterways that was commissioned to dredge the River Niger and, you know, do feasibility on whether it's possible to build a seaport in Lokoja to serve the 19 states in the north. Transportation cost is a huge factor. Extortion on the roads for the trucks that haul goods around Nigeria, food, is a huge factor, and it contributes to food inflation. Diesel is also a huge factor. So if we tackle the fact that we need decentralized ports to reduce the cost of hauling goods from the states where you have seaports to the states where you don't have seaports, we tackle energy prices, you know, convert trucks, haulage trucks to CNG, convert trucks to biodiesel, and then work on reducing the cost of diesel in Nigeria by, you know, refining your own diesel in Nigeria. You begin to see the energy impact on food prices begin to taper. These are the structural issues we need to tackle. Unfortunately, we don't like to focus on the meat of the issue. We like to run around circles and then the problems come back. You know, you have to focus on doing backward integration for the cost of fertilizer. Fertilizer prices went up from 7,000 naira per bag in 2019. It's close to 40,000 naira today. Why? Because the exchange rate has made it very expensive to import muriate of potash and phosphorus from Morocco and Eastern Europe and Canada. These are the issues we need to talk about. Unfortunately, I've not seen any plan by the current Minister of Agriculture to tackle the meat of the issues that is driving food inflation in Nigeria. And this is the reason why the inflation rate, which is 32.8% for food nationally, is not responding to monetary tightening. All right,
Kelvin. Well, obviously, we will keep talking about this, especially as the media. It's what we can do. We can bring these issues to the surface, because I am sure the minister knows these challenges that we are facing, and probably they know how to solve it. We'll get them to do it. Thank you so much for your time, Chief Executive Officer of Dairy Hills, Kelvin Emmanuel.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so 2024 is upon us, and these issues are still here, so we'll keep staying on them. But let's take a break now. When we come back, we'll look at the aviation sector in 2023. That's after the break right here on Business Morning. Welcome back. Still watching Business Morning right here on Channels Television. We head to the aviation sector now, where that sector is closing the year with about $782 million trapped funds, mostly revenue from ticketing owed to foreign airlines, and also having over its head the threat of the exit of foreign airlines from the country. We cannot say how much that will impact, users or Nigerians generally. But let's see more details of how the aviation industry fared in 2023 with the president of National Association of Nigeria Travel Agents in NANTA, Mrs. Susan Akoreye, joins us virtually from Delta State. Thank you so much. I believe you're on holiday, so compliments of the season, and thank you so much for agreeing to spend some of your holiday time with us.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure being here.
Great.
It's good to see you again.
Good to see you too, virtually, I guess. So tell us, the aviation sector this year, we saw jet fuel issues. We've seen a major shake-up in this month in the leadership of there, but we also still have the issue of trapped funds and the threat of foreign airlines to leave the country. Paints for us the picture of the 2023 travel for the aviation sector this year.
You are absolutely right. It's been a tough year for us in aviation, ups and downs, aviation internationally, and also even in Nigeria. We have a new minister. There's been a lot of discoveries. There's been a lot of uncovering a lot of issues. And we can only but be hopeful that 2024 will be better for us in the aviation. It's been from one threat to the other. Of course, you just said it, the director of Africa of IATA saying that some airlines might begin to pull out. That's not going to be good for us, knowing fully well that air transport is one of the major ways in which goods and services in and out of Nigeria, until pending when the other transport sector is fully developed for us. Air transport is the main thing, and I guess that's why we're really feeling the brunt of what is going on, because that seems to be the only access in and out of Nigeria internationally.
So how real is this threat? Are they really, does it look like they will leave? We've seen companies in the corporate and the consumer goods industry leave the country. Do you see them leaving? Because that would be really terrible.
I don't see them leaving, if you ask me. Yeah, but then again, once you are down and you've really been beaten, you're at the verge of doing anything at this point. So I see it more as them trying to really force the hands of the government to look into the sector. Personally, too, I actually feel the government is not paying attention enough But thank God for our new minister. He seems to be making a lot of moves, and his voice is being heard everywhere now. So we are beginning to get the attention that we need. So if you ask me, I will tell the airlines to just hold on a little bit more. I don't see them leaving actually, because you know, the flights are still full in any ways. You know, there are several ways in which airlines feel their flight. If they're not feeling it from Nigeria, they're feeling it from other parts of the world. So as long as the flights are full, somehow the business will keep going. I don't see them pull through without threats. Actually, I don't.
Yeah, but if Susan, if our debt keeps growing, now we have more than $780 million hanging over our head. I guess by now, because this was for August, by now it's even higher. How do we get out of it? Don't you think it will catch up with us, Nigeria, one day?
It is already catching up with us. Actually, we are now paying like 3 times to be able to travel, all because of this issue. All the lower inventories, you know, nothing has changed. At sometimes they release, and once the trap funds grow, they remove it again. So we are already paying and suffering for it with the travel agencies, even the Nigerian travel public. Then even those that feel they can go to Cotonou, go to Ghana, the stress, the risk of all that just to travel. So we are already paying for it actually. But then again, you know, sometime early this year or late last year, it was at 814, if you remember. So if at 814 the airlines didn't leave, at this 700 and something, with of course with a lot of discussion with the government, and they are getting their money, though in trickles, but it's there, not as much as they would want to, but with more attention. Yeah, I guess that news has caught the attention of the government. No country, including Nigeria, will ever want us to get to that point. So I don't think the government will also sit down and fold their hands and allow it get to that point. I'm sure they are doing something. You know, sometimes in leadership, a lot of things you are doing, you cannot say now until you can see it before you come out and announce. So, like I tell my members, we're just going to keep our fingers crossed and continue to pray like we have been praying. It went up to almost 900. And it came down, we're at 700 and something. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that it will continue to go down and not go up.
Okay, and we hope that the minister, you know, you said his voice is being heard. We'll also see action coming from him.
Yes.
Just before we let you go, you know, a lot of Nigerians were really hoping that we'll be ending 2023 with our own national carrier, Nigeria Air Nigeria. But unfortunately, that seems very far away from us at this time as the year comes to an end.
Oh, yes. I was the #1 person that was really hoping. And I feel the coming in of Nigerian Air is going to bring a lot of change in the industry. Like we know, competition brings down prices. Thank God for Airpeace, they are doing well, opening up new routes. And if you notice, those routes that Airpeace are opening up, the price is dropping for the other airlines. That's what competition causes. So we, just like you, we were really optimistic. But then again, with the change of pattern, the new minister having to go through the files, and of course with our pace of doing things in Nigeria, I really didn't expect anything to happen this year. I was hopeful earlier on, even before the last administration finished. But then again, with the new administration and the handing over, and with the things we've been hearing our ministers say, a lot of uncovering that has led to the removal a lot of aviation agencies, DG replacements. So you can have an idea that that situation of the Nigerian airline is a huge mess. Even though we had an idea that something is on, we really didn't know the gravity. And like the minister said, we should hold on. He's going to have a full press briefing and let Nigerians know what went wrong and what they had doing to try to bring it back. One thing is for sure, that we're happy. The minister is still on course. He's still promising that Nigerian Air will happen, but we should give him time to unravel the situation he met on ground and see a better way forward. So I never actually expected anything this year.
All right, thank you so much, Susan Aporeye, the president of National Association of Nigeria Travel Agencies. And, well, since you have confidence in the minister, we will believe with you and hope that 2024 we would see more results.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, take care. All right, just before I hand over to the market, I'd like to remind you of that sad news we brought to you earlier of the death of the governor of Ondo State, Mr. Rotimi Akeredolu. He is dead. He died on Wednesday, today, in Lagos. And we know he's been in the news for some months now. He's been experiencing health issues. I went abroad to seek medical treatment, and then he came back in Nigeria in September. He was in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital, up till, I think, December the 13th, where he asked to go on a medical leave, handed over to his deputy, and then he wrote a formal transferring power to his deputy, and who has since assumed responsibilities. Unfortunately, Mr. Akeredolu is dead. This announcement has been made by his wife, Mrs. Betty Akeredolu, and there was a lineup of celebrations for his 70th. Unfortunately, that obviously has had to be suspended. A very sad news, and here from Channels Television, we do pray that his soul will rest in perfect peace, and our condolence to his family and friends around him. All right, now let's head to the markets now with Anete Edet. Markets have been closed since last week. A half day on Friday, Monday holiday, Tuesday holiday. Market opens today, where Anete has what to tell us before the markets.
Good
Anete,
morning,
good morning. Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure the financial markets are reopened, but we've been here doing our business.
As
These
usual.
financial markets reportage our business. So, but I wouldn't be giving you market numbers, but what I'll be giving you first is the expectation for the final 3 days of trading for all the markets.
For the year.
Yes, and then specifically we'll now be talking about another segment of the market which has not been in much of discourse. That's talking about the Sukuk bonds. So we'll be talking to our analysts to give us details about that.
All right.
Now, so this is the first trading day after Christmas. Christmas break is over. Now we're looking forward to the new year, which is just about some 4 days and some few hours remaining. Now, but take a look at your board there for the outlook. What we're expecting today, first of all, Nigeria's financial market, after observing the Christmas break, they will be resuming today. They've actually resumed December the 27th. And we're starting first with the bonds market. We expect the bullish trend to extend, to continue there. Of course, that trading is done at the FMDQ exchange, where the bonds, treasury bills, open market operations, and as well as the central bank's special bills will be traded. And then talking about the yields, the treasury bills market, mild demand is expected for debt instruments for this week. And then over to the money market, we expect that the overnight lending rates will remain depressed due to a healthy system liquidity. And then for the equities market, traders say they anticipate that there will be mixed sentiment because, of course, some investors will be positioning for the Q4 and the full year 2023 financial results, which will begin to trickle in sometime in January. So that's all of the expectations. So now let's talk about Sukuk bond. And let's speak with Akpan Oputu, that's the chief dealer at Lotus Bank, to give us more details about this Islamic bond. Thank you for joining us, Akpan.
Thank you for having us on the show. Good morning, everyone.
Okay, so now let's talk Sukuk. I know not a lot of people are familiar with this bond. It is an Islamic bond, which is also a component of Islamic finance and then an alternative source of funds for the Nigerian government. But my first question is, how much of the Sukuk has been issued so far this year, and what purposes were the bonds issued for?
Okay, so first of all, I would just like to commiserate with the people of Ondo State on the passing of the governor, Rotimi Akeredolu. We pray that his soul rest in perfect peace. So onto the market. This year, the federal government is Islamic debt instruments. They issued the 2023 Sukuk bond, which is a 10-year bond, and a total of 150 billion was offered on the instrument. We saw a subscription of over 652 billion in October, and at the close of the market in October 13th, when the bond was supposed to settle, we saw the DMO issue a total of 350 billion out of the 652 billion subscription. So we've continued to see strong investor appetite and confidence in the Sukuk bond. This is actually the 6th Sukuk bond that the DMO is issuing. It's a 10-year paper and it was offered at 15.75 rental income. So it's due to mature in October of 2033. So these funds, they are actually an Islamic instrument. Is a 10-year bond. The purpose of the fund is actually to finance construction and to rehabilitate roads and bridges across the 6 geopolitical zones, and including the Federal Capital Territory. So this is actually the 6th bond that has been issued. Not many market participants are familiar with the Sukuk bonds, but the DMO has actually come up with this for the Sharia as a Sharia compliant instrument to try to help market participants who are tilted towards this instrument to actually participate in the market.
Okay, we thank you so much for that analysis, but I think time is never your friend, especially when you're giving very, very vital market information, but we do appreciate your time on our show. That was Akpewa Okputu, Chief Dealer at Lotus Bank, giving us details about the bonds market, which is a very veritable source of funding for Nigeria, particularly for infrastructure. So, Ini, that's it.
Kadeti, I think to be real, if you go towards the island opposite Muson Center, you will see that some of those roads were reconstructed or rehabilitated, you know, with the Sukuk bond. So, and you will see the signboards there. So these things are not so abstract.
That's investors' money doing the work for government.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Aniti. Well, let's head to London now. At least the holidays are over. We can have our Juliana. Juliana, I know you had fun. We've been here holding a fort for you. But tell us, how was Christmas in the UK? The spending, the retailers, the gifts. We talked a lot about gifts, you know, re-gifting. That was the plan. Did it really happen?
I've got to say there was lots of re-gifting. I've been tuned in to channels, of course. Spectacular presentation from you, Ini, and the rest of the team.
Thank you, Juliana.
Christmas season's greetings. I've got to, as it's only right, to join the condolences of the family of the Akeredolus, as well as Ondo State and Nigeria, in the passing of His Excellency Rotimi Akeredolu, who, you know, was a huge figure in the diaspora. Channels Business Global, which of course is produced and presented from here in London, His Excellency was a frequent guest. He spent so much time investing in diaspora discussion, so it's only right that I begin by expressing my condolences from the Channels family here in London, as well as the diaspora. Awfully sad news, and you know, sad news it seems for high street retail. Of course, it is still very, very early. I suppose all of the humongous data from Christmas retail spending will probably get in a couple of weeks, but there is data looking at the footfall of Christmas Eve in the UK, and unfortunately numbers are down. It shows that footfall was down about 20% of what it was pre-COVID, and even the week before it seems that numbers were up. I think it was really difficult for retailers this year, Ini, because of course we know that Christmas Eve fell on a Sunday, and in the UK there are limited trading hours on a Sunday, so you can't really open until 12 o'clock. So that certainly wiped a lot of stuff out. Of course, we know that the Channel studio in London is also incredibly central. We are in the dead centre of London. So typically, getting off the tube just shortly after Christmas, you would see lines of people queuing up so they can grab a bargain in Boxing Day sales. I didn't see any of that. Didn't see anybody queuing up today. It could have something to do with the very cold weather and the fact that I think the Met Office have put out severe weather restrictions and travel restrictions because of strong winds and rain. But alas, it does appear as if the cost of living has indeed bitten during Christmas. Even though inflation is down, I think people are still feeling the pinch. So lots of second-hand gifts. But I've got your gifts under the desk, Innie. Whenever you're down here in London,
yeah,
I pass it over.
I'll be looking forward to that, and I hope you keep it very well. It might take a while, but I'll make it there. I'll make it there, Juliana. All right, Juliana, we'll be talking about expectations for the shortened week with Ladi at 1:30. But good to see you, looking bright and very colorful right there.
Thank you. Have to blend in with my...
I know. All right, and talking of Ladi, well, he comes in now with the
I hope Ladi's bright too,
I hope,
somehow.
I've been seeing you all day, all week, so Ladi, I don't know, are you bright or not?
Nothing fresh about me to you right
exactly.
now. But it seems the market is taking your color at this point.
Again?
It's red. Yeah, you've been doing a lot of red. I was the only one to try to do green on Christmas Day.
You should have done green. Maybe that would have reflected
maybe that would have helped. So
market.
if you look at the color right there, let's look at the color.
Sorry, you don't have the numbers right there, but
yeah, see the color. Yeah, that's it.
Good for you.
Strong red color there. $42,633. See Bitcoin. They tried to break a resistance zone there above that level, about 43,500, but couldn't make it up with the bears selling action there. But we see BNB having fun, Matic, and a couple of other altcoins having fun in the market right now. Let's look at the top cryptocurrencies that we track now. We see Bitcoin at 8 a.m. this morning, there, $42,633, down 0.54%. Let's bring in our Lumide additional now, financial market analyst. Hello, Lumide. Good morning. Compliments of the season.
Yeah, compliment of the season too, Ladi. Good morning.
Great to have you, Olumide. So we're seeing the market now is looking quite weak and flat at this time. Talk to us. Do you see this weakness carrying on to the end of the year?
I think this weakness is temporary because if you look at the crypto market performance, I think it's been stellar all around. And if you look at the pullback, it's just really minute when you look at it on a monthly or yearly basis. Interestingly, I was looking at in the crypto market and the financial market. One will have to say CZ made $23.6 billion just in his exposure in the crypto market. No entity in the financial industry, not even Ken Craffin, the hedge fund manager of one of the most powerful institutional firms, Citadel, had such year-to-date gain, and that was pretty much because we saw Bitcoin having year-to-date gain of about 160%. We saw Solana looking at breaking all records this year, up 10 times this year. So it literally means that if you had the $1 million investment in Solana in January, Ladi, as I'm talking to you, you have $20 million adjusting the Naira devaluation. So those pullbacks definitely would happen. But the contest right now is, can the crypto market keep running at this oscillation? Well, the US SEC is still a bit on the neutral side in terms of approving Bitcoin and spot ETF. So markets are really looking at those fluctuations. So I thought the price action just affirmed profit taking temporarily.
Right. And looking at the trading strategy in 2023, which one would you say was the winner in 2023, and what are you seeing going into 2024 very quickly?
I think position trading, because those that held longer than 3 to 6 months captured the trend. There was no how you could be a swing trader or a day trader. You captured Solana's 10 times rally, or Bitcoin's almost 2 times rally, or Ethereum's over 200% gain. So I think position trading was definitely the biggest winner, and that was why CZ's wealth grew exponentially, because he had been an old OG in terms of holding for the long term.
Right. Thank you so much, Olumide, additional financial market, and it's always great having your perspective.
Thank you for having me.
All right, there you have it, Innie. So we had inflation, sky-high inflation this year, cost of living crisis, currency devaluation, but it looks like those that took a bet on most of these markets, look at it, the NGX,
because it looks like, I mean, somebody who had the heart to hold on to Solana has become millionaire in dollars.
Exactly.
You know,
because imagine it with a cost of living crisis, you can't buy food, but taking part of that already squeezed disposable income to put into an investment that you could actually lose takes a lot.
A lot of guts.
Yeah.
All right, laddie, thank you. See you at 1:30. All right, so that's it on the program. You're welcome back to work. We're here. We have how many days left in this year? Let's make the most of it. It's always good to make money, you know, because even when you go on holiday, you need to spend money. Anyways, you can watch Business Morning at any time you want on our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/channels web, and you can look for Business Morning Today, Yesterday, or the one for Christmas. Laddie will be back at 1:30. Do go out there, make some money, and we'll see you tomorrow.